To continue with the momentum, we have with us Sri Sandeep Narangji, who is well-known veteran with the real estate community in the country with the deep knowledge on sustainable construction practices. And pollution is an issue in construction industries and we cannot ignore them. And the main type of pollution you need to aware of this is air, water, and noise. And in the sense of any precautionary measure in this place, it can directly affect the site employees, people living in nearby areas, and which may further cause inevitable damage to their health. So we have with us Sri Narangji, Senior Consultant, Sustainable Construction Practices, to enlighten us how the sustainability can be achieved during this construction phase. So without further ado, with lots of requests, I am pleased to introduce Sri Sandeep Narangji as our eminent speaker to address the participant in this session. Sri Sandeep Narangji has experience of more than 30 years after completing his civil engineering from Delhi College of Engineering, and he is a respected and well-known veteran with the real estate community in this country. And he has an excellent knowledge on the dynamics of volatile real estate market, and he is a champion of affordable housing and an expert of sustainability in the built environment. He is also associated with IGBC as IGBC Green Fellow, IGBC AP, and member of IGBC Western UP Chapter Core Committee of SOCHM as Senior Advisor, and co-chair of student activities of Council of Green and Eco-Friendly Movement. And he consults projects on uses of resource and help project team to meet their green targets. And he is currently working on project with a deep social impact where he is using his experience and knowledge to develop a blueprint for zero wastage project site to follow the path of sustainable construction practices during this construction phase. So with this brief introduction, I welcome you, sir, and request you to please address the participants.
Good afternoon. I believe I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible and visible too.
Thank you. Thank you. And my screen is also visible, right? So this is the presentation structure of my talk today. And I thank YMCA Faridabad as well as the team of GTS. And I'll be talking on sustainability during construction phase. So we follow this structure. I'll do a small introduction about sustainable engineering processes, what's construction phase. I'll talk about air and water, how they get affected during construction phase, and I'll talk about way forward for sustainability as a skill. So I'm a civil engineer and I have been doing lots of projects. So my program is more on sustainability and construction as such. We have been listening a lot about green buildings, smart cities, green cities. So what's the process of a project, whatever happens, whether it's infrastructure or let's say the real estate, whatever is happening, the project goes through three or four phases predominantly. As you can see on the screen, first is the design phase, when designers and the owners loop in and set the context for the project. The design phase is usually 1 to 2 years when the details of how the project will shape up is getting on board. Fifth, the way for last 20 years sustainability has been in the question or in the domain of construction. So design phase, somehow the architects have capacity building has happened, and many of the IGBC, SOCHM, USGBC and GREHA, they have come up with the rating system. So designing of a project, people are talking about sustainable design, efficiencies for water, energy, waste management during the design. I will skip the second part because that's our topic. During the commissioning, people commission it to be a design. And during that's the fourth part, during the operations of the uses, we can see a little bit of effect, although if we get into the details, because there is very less capacity building in terms of end user. Many end users don't know how to use that green building or use that to get that maximize the efficiencies of the green building. So operation part, capacity building, lots of capacity building has to be done. Okay, let's go back to the construction part. The 4 to 5 years the construction is happening at the project. Now it has got its own challenges in India. We have low wages, skill levels are very low, and the other factors weigh in the way we have been brought up our culture, that nobody cares for the environment. So construction, during the construction phase, if we use the word green construction or sustainable construction, we find it missing even for very uh, big rated companies as well. If I have to say, I'm sorry to say this, but even the bigger companies, I will give you an examples also as I go through the presentation. So the fundamental issue is we design a project as a green project. Operations is a green project, but we work in silos. We don't construct it without harming the environment, water or air, and even construction and demolition waste as such. Why this happens? Because all the project people or the project proponents, they work on constraints or the risk factors, and if the risk factors connect with the cost of the project or time of the project, then people are worried, the project teams are worried about those constraints of the risk factors. Somehow air quality because of construction or water for construction, they are never taken as risk factors for the project, or they are, people think they don't affect the cost or cost and time schedule, but it's not true. I will again get explain it to you as we go along this presentation. We start first with the air part. This is a common sight in Faridabad or Gurgaon or Noida during the summers if you go around, few projects happening. And this is what common headlines of the media during November. Come November, as graded response action plan sets in of NGT, schools are shut, construction works get stopped in Delhi. Why is this happening? Because PM2. PM10 levels are getting ahead of what's desired, and the come as orchestrated. Now coming to the COVID, we are living in a pandemic, living through the pandemic, and how air pollution or how outdoor air quality is affecting Delhi and Mumbai's high COVID tele linked to. These are few of the headlines I'm sharing with you. Delhi and Mumbai COVID, high COVID tele linked to severe air pollution, says experts. So we as a construction fraternity have to feel responsible for the pandemic as well. Air pollution exposure linked to higher COVID-19 cases and deaths. This is happening, and this is there to see. And November is not far away again. And this is again the way our industry responds. This is also a headline of the newspaper. And if you look at uh, the projects which get stopped during construction for the air pollution during this graph, even Pragati Maidan construction was stopped, and that was done by a very big reputed firm. This year we will be seeing construction starting for Xavier Airport and Central Vista, new Parliament building. So will that projects be contributing to air pollution or not? It's yet to be seen. Or will they be doing some sustainable construction or mitigating the construction dust as they construct? So what's the what's the real cause between how is the connection between construction, dust, and air quality? So this is IIT Kanpur study, and if you see this PM2 funds, see this 5 PM2.5 is 38% is road dust, and construction is again very small. Construction demolition is very small, 2%, 6% as batching plants. This is PM10. It's a bigger pie of road dust is 56%. And this is what Terry study says. Dust and construction contribution to air pollution in Delhi. 41 to 43% during summers. This was in 2018. And winters, when we are stopping the construction, it's 25 to 30%. Again, PM2.5 in summers is high, in winters is less. So this is somewhat conflicting for the construction industry, that when we are generating less dust, we are being banned and we are being stopped construction. Why is this happening? Because there are no studies available, no construction companies coming forward and saying, okay, We can show you the way of constructing where we can mitigate. We won't be contributing that. Let the construction dust not escape from the construction boundaries and go out. Please remember, the construction dust, when once it crosses the construction boundary, it becomes road dust or dust in the atmosphere, outdoor air quality. And this is why we call dust as a problem. Airborne dust from construction site is problem because it creates health problems for respiratory disease. It causes environmental degradation, air and water pollution, problems with visibility. It damages dirty property. It creates unsafe working conditions within the premises as well. And somehow it increases the cost associated with the loss of materials or additional work involved. And it's caused, these are the reasons: demolition activities, site preparation activities, vehicle movement, uncovered stockpiles. These are few of the reasons that it's happening. And these are the benefits of effective dust control if it happens within the project site. And it's beneficial for everyone, to the builder, to the owner, neighbors and community, and to the environment as well. So the benefits, if I go through, I'll just take the bullet points. For the builder, it enhances the business reputation. To the owner, it reduces risk of damage to the property. Neighbors and communities are happy. And environment, reduction in air pollution, reduction in water pollution, fewer disturbances to existing flora and fauna habitats. So what are the constraints? Why are we unable to work on construction dust, not lose the construction premises? In India, climate and weather is one of the constraints because we live through many climate zones, and again, cost is a constraint because we try to not to spend money on environmental aspects. Limited knowledge is again a constraint because nothing is happening or nobody is talking about this during the studies, during their internships, as well as when the projects are happening. Time involved is again one of the constraints. And coming to the financial impacts, every year 25 to 30 work days are lost in NCR, and the same will be the condition in 122 non-attainment cities in National Clean Air Action Plan. Project sites are losing 1 month every year, and if a 5-year project, it gets extended by 6 months. That will add minimum of 10% to the cost of the project. If it's in the contractor scope, contractor will be losing his construction margin. If it's owner scope, then it's the cost of construction going up. And what are the ways? Why are the things not happening as they should be? Why the sustainability is not setting in? National Building Code mandates for monitoring of air quality during construction twice a week. Trust me, I have been talking about this and I've been working on this subject for last 5-6 years. Nowhere, none of the project sites have this outdoor air quality sensors. Once they don't have outdoor air quality sensors, nobody knows what's the air quality within the project premises. So whatever is happening at projects, because nothing is being measured, there are no measurements happening, no data, nobody can go to Supreme Court or NGT, and even the bigger companies like L&T, they can't go to the Supreme Court and say, sir, outdoor air quality of AQI of Delhi was 200, but within my premises it's 175. Please allow me not to stop the work, because we are not measuring the quality of air within our building projects. We are doing fogging. These fogging machines have been mandated, but again, we have limited knowledge of how to use, which activities are to be are producing the construction dust. So capacity building of the project members, the people who are working on the project, nothing is being taught in the even educational institutes about air quality, construction dust, and tackling of construction. There is no subject or nothing has been taught over here. This is fogging during the demolition that's happening. These photographs are not from India. You can see them, you can feel them, because it's not happening in India. We are ready to copy elevation or designs from the way construction happens outside India, but we are not happy, or we don't want to construction the way they construct. They use this machinery to their advantage. This is, we are glad to share that the Delhi Metro procured one last year, and this machine was installed at construction site at Dwarka, logging machine. Now, these are few of the things which we can do. I will show you the common techniques which should be used for tackling of construction dust. Now, this is how we do the construction. This is a photograph from Kartar Singh Saab corridor, which was a very big and named project happened in Punjab. This is how we did our construction, and this is how construction happens outside, where mulch carpets are being placed so that the loose soil doesn't get into the air and doesn't contribute to the air quality inside. And we are troubled with the uh, uh, with the burning of plants that happens in Punjab or Haryana during winters, and the same material can be used to construct these mulch carpets. The last pieces what remain from the harvest yield, or you can what we call it rice roots, what are left and what the farmers burn. So this is the same thing. We need to create the mulch carpets. Hydro seeding. We don't do hydro seeding. It's very simple process to stop air, to control the loose soil, control the air. It's very effective. The cost comes less than 0.50 paise square foot, but nobody uses this because this is similarly hydro mulching or soil erosion. These are few of the techniques which can be used in India, and we can work on sustainability during construction phase for air quality. This was my first part. Similarly, I will do a small discussion on water also. How groundwater extraction has been banned, and in NCR and many places in India, we are not supposed to withdraw water from we are not supposed to use the groundwater for construction. In Noida, we are losing 3 meters of ground table, 3.87 meters of ground water every year. Now, where is the water for construction? If we have banned underground water construction, and government wants to do housing for all, there is a this mission smart cities to be constructed, lots of infrastructure has to come up, and if there is no water to be extracted from underground, we don't have water in rivers, from where will the water come for construction? The question is, how much water do we need for the construction? What's the water footprint of a project? There's a total embodied water footprint, and of the total embodied water footprint, one is indirect embodied and what is direct embodied water footprint. Direct embodied water footprint is the water used at in situ towards the construction for the projects. No studies are happening. There are very few studies. Only one study there are 3 studies worldwide that have happened. And one of the studies is from Jadavpur University, Dr. Suchindra Bardhan has done. And she came to a conclusion that 132 liters per square feet of water is needed for a multi-story construction. She did this study in one of the multi-story apartments at Calcutta. And I did few studies, few pilot studies by getting into the theoretical requirement of water as water cement ratio, and I could come down that we need only 60 to 70 liters per square feet of water, depending on few of the factors for where the batching plant is located, or if the workers are staying within the project site or they are staying outside. So there was a scope of saving 80 to 100 liters per square feet of water. I did a study in Greater Noida with one of the leading builders. I won't take the name. And the theoretical requirement allowing for 20% wastage, they needed 60 liters per square feet of water, but they had consumed 250 liters. 4 times they have consumed. Whatever that was needed, 3 times their water have got wasted. So if the water is getting wasted, where is that water going? If you go to few project sites where the water is being wasted, you will come across these type of scenarios where water is getting stranded all in the basements, or water puddles happening during the project site. This is all water that was not needed to be spilled over at a project site. And so I shared the problems of sustainable construction practices. So what's the way forward? The way forward is efficiency improvement for all teams for sustainable construction practices, creating awareness with the site staff, site execution teams, and following intelligent utilization of water during construction phase, measurement of energy and water consumed during construction phase. In the field of sustainability, we very well say that whatever is not measured cannot be managed. About air quality, reuse of construction and demolition waste. Somehow I wish to get down to a concept of creating zero wastage projects, the projects which don't waste any water or use the optimum energy that's required for the construction of project, don't disturb the air quality. They reuse all construction and demolition waste, and they are zero harmful to the environment. And this is one of the problems. Now, in the top management, we have very few people who are highly skilled. Mid management, moderate skilled. Supervisory staff, the skill levels are very low. And whosoever engineers are coming out from our engineering colleges, so we skills per se, sustainability and construction, nothing is happening at the education level. Even whatever we do teach them as interns when they join us for the projects. And this is the knowledge matrix, as we call it, for the projects. Whatever is happening at the projects, as I have shown you the problems that happen at the project with air and water and the other problems, 4% are known to the top executive who have the highest skill level, and 100% of the problems are hidden from senior management, but they are known to the staff. So we need to have the sustainability skill education to the lower level staffs as they come out of the engineering colleges and other levels. And this is very interesting when we are trying to bring about a mass change in the way we work. We go through a OODA loop. Same way Swachh Bharat Abhiyan happened, same way. We put something in the observation of the people, the masses. We want to act the way we want the things to happen. Once it's there in your observation, then you get oriented, then you decide, then you act. So we call it OODA loop. So there should be a big observation on sustainability during the construction phase, to the students, to the skilled workers, to all the people who will be joining the construction industry. So this is the way forward. We put informative stage, we do visuals at site, company policy for air quality during construction, water uses, energy uses. Then next stage is voluntary stage, when we train staff for sustainable construction practices. We talk about lean construction management, which talks about wastages happening at construction site, and we link with their key responsibilities areas so that they take them as their responsibilities. So we need to have these visuals. There are very few visuals. You will go to any project site, nobody will be saying that we are wasting zero wastage project. We care for air quality during construction. You won't find these posters happening, but we are trying to work on this. So this is my talk, and in the race of excellence, I say there are no finish lines. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your meaningful, elevating and enriching talk on the various aspects of various insights of construction industry and the measures that can be adopted in order to maintain the sustainability during this construction phase. You rightly say about the various kind of measures that can be adopted, and highlighted various aspects of capacity building in order to reduce the pollution level, either in the term of air or either in the term of water. So thank you so much, sir. And can we take the questions from the audience side, sir? So if any of the participants have any question or query in this regard, then you may drop it directly in this chat box, or you may directly interact with Narang sir also. You may raise your hand so that I can unmute you, and you can directly interact with Narang sir regarding this issue.
There's my mobile number also, and it's my email ID. So any queries are there, I'm happy to help. And we have been working with capacity building for students. I'm on IGBC student chapters. We started launching of IGBC student chapters. I'm also national chair for CGEM. So CGEM activities, we keep on doing lots of webinars for the students and try to get the education to them. And again, we are doing through Premjan Memorial Trust also. So we will be happy if you can, if anyone who wants to get associated with Premjan Memorial Trust. We have IGBC student chapter at YMCA. We also have a CGEM memorandum of understanding with YMCA. But other institutes, if they want to join us for this crusade for knowledge, to the green knowledge dissemination for the students. So I request and welcome you all. You can write me on my mail, and happy to be part of this.
Sir, one of the participants, they raised the question that what are the things that we can adopt at our level in developed countries, in developing countries. What you have shown that some of the developed countries, they are using some of the measures like mulch carpet, or means, is it possible to use these all adoptions in our developing countries also?
Yes, why not? See, it's vis-a-vis if a project team understands the need for controlling air pollution. Now, again, it comes down, India is a vast country. Now you are excavating a basement in Faridabad or in Gurgaon. Now it comes when? If you are excavating it in the month of July and refilling it by month of December, January, after having done the constructed your basement, you won't be having any loose soil because you get into the rainy season, and you won't be having any loose soils during that period. So you don't need mulching to be done. But if you're doing the same basement is being excavated in the month of February, March, and the works is closing before June, July. So climate plays a big part. Soil type plays a big part. The same work, if it's happening in Himachal Pradesh, there is no loose soil happening. Air pollution or construction dust won't escape to the uh, won't escape beyond construction boundaries. So the project team has to understand these are small factors actually. The only problem is the intent to uh, mitigate this, or to have that right thought process of, okay, I'm not gonna, there is the first thing that has to happen. I'm requesting to all the ministries and through my talks at various levels to make mandatory air pollution measurements at project sites which are bigger than 3 acres or 10,000 square meter or 12,000 square meter, so that there have to be air quality sensors. Because once PM2 or PM10 spikes come at a project site because some demolition has happened or some scavenging work has happened or some road has been used, so immediately the project team will come to know. Mulching doesn't cost 50 paise a square feet. In Jammu, when they are doing the road work, cutting off embankments of the hill, they do mulching over there. They do hydro seeding for that. We do hydro seeding for golf golf uh, golf courses we make. They doesn't cost anything. The idea is to have it in mind. In Europe, if you do construction, you have to have proper plan of how, when the construction will start, when will it end, what will be the months, when will the project site get exposed, when the construction dust will get exposed, when the construction dust will try to escape from the premises. In India, nobody talks about this, nobody works on this. Similarly, is for water also. Water, I will give you an example. In Chennai, because the water is being purchased, so they keep a 120 liter per square feet of water as a standard construction. So I went to one of the project, one of my friends in Chennai, and I told him about this pilot studies we have been doing for last 3 years on measuring the water per se for the residential construction, for commercial construction. So I asked him how much water you have taken for the project. He said we took 120 liters, but we went overboard and we have to buy 140 liters per square foot, and it was roughly 10 million square foot for construction. So I told him, if you go through the theoretical, water cement ratio, you set down how much water you need for curing and other activities, and plan not to spend water. So how much water will you be needing? Then they recalculated the whole project. They said they might be needing, allowing for 20 to 30% of wastages, only 90 liters per square feet of water. So in a way, they have wasted 50 liters per square feet of water, and they were buying water at 40 paisa a liter. So there was 20 rupees per square feet, and they had constructed 1 crore square feet. A wastage of 20 crore rupees happened at that project site, where the construction cost was 2,700 rupees per square feet. 2,700, it's somewhat less than 1% or 0.75%. That's the salaries we pay to the staff. So in a way, salaries, whatever was paid to the staff, same amount of the salaries have got wasted because of overconsumption of water at a project site. So that's the idea. Idea is if we can correlate between the wastages that's happening and the gains of going for sustainability during construction phase.
Thank you, sir. Sir, basically, construction industry is considered as one of the polluting industry when we talk about air pollution specifically. So, in metro cities, government has some policies to utilize this wastewater, treated wastewater in construction industry. So, is there any policy measure that is being implemented at government level to control the air pollution at construction sites also?
Actually, all the cities are coming up with their own national clean air action plans.
True.
And few of the cities, I'm working with few NCAPs. I'm working with Smart City Surat, Smart City Bangalore, and Smart City Dharamshala on this. So we are coming up with a document for construction sector. We have already completed the document. It's awaiting the release with WRI and Bloomberg Philanthropies on how to control construction dust. So guidelines to control the construction. The first guidelines which will be issued pan-India, and because it's not made public yet. It's another 15 days to go when we formally launch that book. So I couldn't share it with you, but once it's launched, I will definitely share with you, Dr. Sombir, and you can share it with all the people or all the attendees over here. It's the excellent guidelines we have shared about how to go about doing sustainable construction. That's in partnership with Surat Municipal Corporation also.
Sir, is there any way forward also to build the capacity of the lower level staffs? Actually, you are saying in your slide also, you rightly put this highlights that problems exist at lower level and they are not much aware about that part. So what your institute is doing to build this capacity at lower level?
See, actually, it's not about, this is one part of sustainable construction, is one part of a concept of Green India. So when we talk about Green India, we need to understand the importance of green citizen. If we talk about smart cities, we need to understand the importance of smart citizen. There is one is literacy level, national literacy plan. It says India will be fully literate by 2070. The other part is sustainability literacy, how literate we are as a sustainable citizen. The people living in villages, they might not be literate, but they are sustainability literate when it comes to sustainability. They waste less. The sustainability is in our bloods. Now the problem has happened is that as the generations has gone fast and we are moving fast towards to achieving our goals, we are forgetting to respect the nature. Now capacity building, we are doing this capacity building through our engineering colleges, through our engineering institutes. We are if we have a WhatsApp group of YMCA Faridabad, and we keep on posting good videos. This is not very. I will sound complaining if I say there are very less students there in that YMCA Faridabad WhatsApp groups. I will request you to put more students of civil engineering and environmental engineering and mechanical engineering in those parts where lots of knowledge comes forward for all the factors of sustainability. Not only the topics I'm in discussion over here about green buildings, green technologies, many things come over open. So important part is capacity building. So once the engineer knows, if one engineer among the engineering team can take this as a mission, we call him a champion. If he thinks that I have to stop wasting water or I have to do something on air quality, things will change at the project site. No doubt mandate has to happen from the higher ups, but somehow we have to create this and whatever I'm talking over here, this is all mandated in various government bills, national building code. It says everything. The idea is to understand that and put it into the practice of the project site.